Welcome to From the Overflow. I'm Stacey Edwards, and we are continuing our series in Psalms called Overflowing Encouragement from the Psalms. We're looking at Psalm 44 today. So we are making great progress. I think we've only been doing this 2 months, maybe. I can't remember exactly when we started, but it's not been very long. And, we don't do weekends or holidays or whatever. Well, I'm just a normal woman with a normal life and kids and such, so we do the best we can. But we're on 44 today, and it's kind of lengthy, so I don't know that we'll read every verse in it, but we'll kind of hit the high points. So this is Psalm 44. I'm going to begin in verse 1. And for those who have asked, I got a couple questions. I do read from the ESV. It's what I've used for years and years. When I was in grad school, it was the required translation, and I loved it, and I've just used it ever since. And I'm kind of losing my voice, so we'll just hope for the best here. It says, "O God, we have heard with our ears, our fathers have told us what deeds you performed in their days, in the days of old." So the first thing that stands out to me is this understanding that the older generation is telling the younger generation about what God has done in their lives. And I love in verse 3, it says, "For not by their own sword did they win the land, nor did their own arm save them, but your right hand and your arm and the light of your face, for you delighted in them." So clearly the older generation is telling the younger about the deeds that God had done in their lives, but also giving him the glory, taking no credit for what has taken place. So they're giving God all the glory. So that's verses 1 through 3. The older generation giving their testimony and giving God the glory. Then in verse 4, this is the younger generation. It says, "You are my king, O God, ordain salvation for Jacob. Through you we push down our foes. Through your name we tread down those who rise up against us." And here is a similar testimony. "For not in my bow do I trust, nor can my sword save me. But you have saved us from our foes and have put to shame those who hate us. In God we have boasted continually, and we will give thanks to your name forever." So in verses 1 through 3, you have the older generation giving their testimonies and giving God the glory. And then verses 4 through 8, the younger generation is now giving their testimonies, and they are also giving God the glory. And then you have, let's jump down to, I think, verse 10. Yes, verse 10. This is interesting because this is the younger generation. And verse 10 says, "You have made us turn back from the foe." Verse 11, "You have made us like sheep for slaughter." Verse 12, "You have sold your people." Verse 13, "You have made us." Verse 14, "You have made us." So they're in this hard place where they're kind of dealing with the enemy. They're dealing with affliction. They're scattered among the nations. But there's this realization that the Lord is still sovereign. So they attribute all of their trials to the hand of God, acknowledging that he is sovereign in it all. And there's something comforting about knowing, even when times are really hard, whether it's through our own doing or not, that the Lord is ultimately in control. And so those verses, kind of verses 9 through 16, are just this acknowledgement of God's sovereignty in their situation. Then in verse 17, I love this one. Verse 17 says, "All this has come upon us." So all of this hard circumstances, "though we have not forgotten you, and we have not been false to your covenant. Our heart has not turned back, nor have our steps departed from your way." So their continued faithfulness in the light of difficult, harsh circumstances. And I think there's no greater testimony than faithfulness in the midst of hard times. How many times I look at those who have gone through terrible struggles and remained faithful, and it's inspiring and encouraging to me as a believer. that we too can go through that strong and with faith, because the world is watching. This is what I try to tell my children and the ladies in our Wednesday night Bible study. The world is watching us, especially when we're going through hard times, because they want to know, especially unbelievers or new believers, they want to know if what you have taught, preached, said to them in their hard times is true for you. Does what you say you believe make a difference when times are hard? And so here we have these people saying, listen, you've made us, turn back from the enemy. You've made us like sheep for slaughter. You've sold your people. You've made us neighbors. You've made us a laughing stock. But we have not forgotten you. We have not been false. We have not turned back, and our steps have not departed from your way. In fact, in verse 23, they continue crying out to him. In verse 23, it says, "Awake, why are you sleeping, O Lord? Rouse yourself. Do not reject us forever." In verse 26, "Rise up, come to our help, redeem us." So still calling to God. And that's prayer. Anytime you see people turning and speaking to God, it doesn't have to say, and they prayed, right? Anytime they talk to God, they're praying. And that's the answer for hard times. That it made me think of 2 Chronicles 20:12. So in 2 Chronicles, the Israelites, the people of God, they're confronted with an enemy that is bigger, mightier, scarier than they are. And in 2 Chronicles 20:12, they cry to the Lord and they say, "We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you." And that's the answer. That's the answer when things are overwhelming, when you don't know what to do. We don't know what to do, Lord, but our eyes are on you. And so just a takeaway from this psalm that I have been thinking about today is, one, the importance of sharing our testimonies. The older generation shared it with the younger. The younger generation who's experiencing it presently is giving a testimony of God's faithfulness. And two, to remember God's sovereignty in the midst of suffering, that he's still very present, and to continually turn to him. And when you don't know what to do, you just keep your eyes on him. So I hope that brings you some encouragement. We're going to be looking at Psalm 45 tomorrow, which I think is interesting because Charles Spurgeon believed Psalm 45 to be about Christ. And so we're going to look at some references, foreshadowing of Christ in Psalm 45. So I hope you'll join me. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We are working toward our giveaway of the NIV Application Bible. This will be when we reach 250 subscribers. I still have this beautiful book to give away, just to basically anybody this week. I'm going to pick a random subscriber this week to give this one to. So be sure to like, subscribe, and comment that you are interested in this children's book on prayer.